understand our problem. We only have your word. And as you've admitted, you lie.
Well, there is no evidence of me ever being violent. Ever. In fact, I have attempted to devote my entire life to what might be called the antithesis of violence, healing, as well as, I hope, empathy and compassion. I helped to heal Eleanor and Fernando's son, Miguel.
Can we talk about that? What was his condition, Miguel's condition?
He had what's called Wilms tumor. It's cancer of the kidney, most common among children, and Miguel bore that statistical brunt.
What was his treatment?
Well, he was unlucky in that normal medical practice and failed. I used to lead a team that specialized in a procedure called autologous bone marrow transplant. It's a long, relatively new process, but happily it was entirely successful in Miguel's case. By the end, we'd all become quite close. Cancer can do that.
Yana, FaceTime video.
Hi.
Hey, honey. What's going on?
Doing work.
Very good. Very good.
What are you
Getting ready for our meeting at 9 o'clock.
doing?
So. And for those of you who don't know, I'm Angela Rose with the Harford County Chamber. I have Heather Murphy, who is our Vice President, joining us. And again, we are happy to have you here today. It is my honor to welcome Karen Kerrigan from the Small Business and Entrepreneurship Council. If you are unfamiliar, the Small Business and Entrepreneurship Council is an influential voice and advocate for entrepreneurs and small business owners. They focus on advancing policies and initiatives that encourage entrepreneurship and small business growth. Their strength and effectiveness is powered by SBE council members and supporters. Their network includes entrepreneurs, small business owners, state and local business organizations, corporate partners, and associations. And Karen, like I said, we are honored to have you here today. For 25 years, her leadership, advocacy, and training has helped foster U.S. entrepreneurship and global business growth. She regularly testifies before the U.S. Congress on key issues impacting entrepreneurs, investment, and the economy, and has been appointed to numerous federal advisory boards, including the National Women's Business Council, the U.S.-Iraq Business Dialogue, the U.S. Treasury's Taxpayer Advisory Panel, and the National President's Cabinet National Advisory Committee for Labor Provisions of U.S. Free Trade Agreements. She regularly engages with the President's Cabinet and key advisors and has spoken or led roundtables at several White House economic summits. She has been a leading voice, especially over these past 10 months with the COVID-19 crisis, in advocating for small business and entrepreneurs and making sure our voices are heard for the needs of the community. So Karen, thank you so much for joining us this morning. I can't express our gratitude for you making the time for this. Thank you so much.
Oh gosh, thank you. It's an honor to be here with you, Angela, and all the speakers, the entrepreneurs, and the business owners, who are really really helping us get through, COVID-19 and this whole crisis. I don't know, where we would be without small businesses and without people, starting new businesses as well. It is so particularly important. And I guess, Angela, I think you want me just to sort of maybe provide some opening comments, over the next few minutes, about the importance of entrepreneurs and entrepreneurship in the United States. We've been doing this now at SBE Council actually for about 27 years. And, all of our work in terms of education and training and particularly on the advocacy front on protecting small business and promoting entrepreneurship, definitely has come full circle at this period of time. And thankfully, I think over the years, I know there's a lot of interest here in Washington, D.C. and at the state and local level, sort of pushing, their agenda and their policies. But I think one of the silver linings of COVID-19 at all levels of government is that they've really come to understand the importance of their small business communities and entrepreneurship to the vibrancy, of the economy, particularly local economies, jobs and job creation, but also all that local tax revenue, right? That is generated by entrepreneurs and small businesses, and why there needs to be friendly policies to encourage small businesses to invest, to grow, and for new people to start new businesses. So, obviously entrepreneurship is very, very vital and important to our economy. Entrepreneurs disproportionately are responsible, particularly in modern economic history, for the creation of so many things. I mean, where would we be without electricity, the automobile, computers, air conditioning, all different types of technologies? Entrepreneurs were responsible for generating all these new innovations that, of course, have improved consumers' lives, transformed our economy, and of course, transformed entire industries and generated new platforms, for new businesses. Entrepreneurs also improve productivity. Entrepreneurship, it injects a fresh new batch of firms into our broader economy, into local economies that improve productivity and increases competition, which is in the end very, very good for consumers. And of course, entrepreneurship is responsible for job creation. The net 60 to 70% of net new jobs in this country are created by new businesses. And again, if we're looking now at how we sort of dig out of this economic hole that has been created by impacted by COVID-19, we really are going to have to turn to entrepreneurs and small businesses to create jobs, the quality jobs, that we're going to need to make up for all the ones that have been obviously that have gone under and decimated by the pandemic. So, really, when you're looking at the state of entrepreneurship right now, over the last 20 years, there has been sort of very weak new business creation and entrepreneurship, caused by a lot of different types of things. There was that period following the Great Recession, actually, where there were more businesses that were closing, as opposed to starting. And we slowly sort of got out of that, where we, there were policies that were generated in terms of access to capital and regulatory certainty that encouraged more people to start businesses, and that's been a really good thing. And then, interestingly enough, COVID-19, comes around. Obviously, many businesses have been closed. Unfortunately, millions permanently. And we were just trying to figure out what the impact would be on new business creation and entrepreneurship. And interestingly enough, we've seen entrepreneurship surging, particularly over the last 4 or 5 months. If the Census Bureau puts out regular numbers on new business applications, and if you look at high propensity new business applications, meaning those that are more likely to launch soon after filing their application and creating jobs, we've seen a massive surge. 1.4 million of those new businesses, which is 15% higher than 2019. So, we see this happening for several reasons. One, out of necessity, right? Many people now are starting new businesses. It could be those businesses who have closed, who have gone to something else. It could be, people that have been downsized and lost their jobs, who are starting new businesses. But also, there's a lot of opportunity, and out of these crises, opportunity is has been an amazing thing. I think particularly because of the mass movement to online platforms and changing consumer behaviors, how businesses are operating right now. So although COVID-19 has been devastating, I know, to many businesses, to our economy, and to in the lives of many individuals, with respect to entrepreneurship, there's some positive things happening. So what I would say is this, and Angela, you get our Small Business Insider newsletter, and to the extent possible, we've been really working hard with particularly at the federal level here in Washington, is really making them aware of what they need to do to continue to encourage not only new people to start businesses, but once these businesses launch, they need to have an ecosystem that supports their growth. And while we still continue to work on, policies for existing businesses, for example, as you know, we've been working a lot on the PPP loan front, right? Sort of getting that program back up and running again and making some pretty dramatic changes so that more small businesses will be able to benefit, from that program, or existing businesses will be able to get a second draw, and there could be there would be greater certainty and simplicity in terms of the forgiveness process. We have pivoted, like many small businesses have during this economy, to really focus on the future. And but again, we are focusing on our existing businesses and some of the programs that they need, like PPP, EIDL, improving those. But obviously, we have a new Congress coming in. We have a new administration that will be coming in. And they really do need to focus on not only our existing businesses and saving those currently on Main Street, so that so that local economies stay vibrant, but also on this sort of surge of new entrepreneurs coming into the system. So the policies, and I'll just hit upon the policies really quick, Angela, and then I'm so excited to hear from the entrepreneurs themselves, what they're seeing on the ground and what their opportunities and what their challenges are. But from a policy perspective, we are saying, look at both to the incoming administration, new members of Congress, but also those who will be there again in the next Congress. We've only sort of strengthened our existing, advocacy efforts. For example, access to capital and capital formation are going to continue to be so vitally important, not only to existing businesses, but also to new entrepreneurs. And, as you know, Angela, we led the effort on equity and debt-based crowdfunding, which is providing a new avenue, for many businesses to raise the capital that they need to scale and grow. And interestingly enough, during the summer months, and now that there's been some additional new policies that have made crowdfunding more accessible, more affordable for small businesses, we're beginning to see this massive surge in crowdfunding because of several trends. I mean, one, many local individuals and that belong, that are members of the community, want to see their businesses succeed. They want to see their new businesses succeed. So they are so we see more entrepreneurs using crowdfunding platforms and tapping into that sort of local investor sentiment. And there's been great success. So what we'd like to see, in addition to maybe improving PPP, is actually doing something that the UK did, which is called a co-investment federal fund. And if a small business, for example, if a small business used one of the existing crowdfunding platforms, which are regulated, I might add, by the federal government, there's been no fraud to date, I will add, that once a startup or a business raises X amount, that the federal government would come in and match that investment. And the government would get paid back just like investors do. This is not free money, again, but this is our way of incentivizing. We think this is a great way of incentivizing new business creation, particularly at the local level, and also to help those businesses pivot and move forward in sort of this new economy. Obviously, we need a pro-growth tax system, and there are so many problems with the tax system right now. A lot of the pro-small business stuff are expiring in the future, but we think this is the opportunity to also go back and to sort of make permanent some of the good things that were part of the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, but maybe add some things in there that are going to be very helpful for startups as well. And that they're really going to need, again, to sort of compete and flourish in this new economy that's beginning to develop. On the regulatory side, look at regulatory certainty is just so important, Angela, and not, piling on the new regulations on these new businesses. And that's one of the messages that we're delivering already to the incoming administration and to the transition team, that if they want a strong economic recovery to dig out of this hole that we're going to be in, that they can't be throwing a lot of new regulations around on existing businesses, even entire big industries, and even big businesses. There is this effort underway to, sort of really, go after some of the big technology firms and to break up those firms. Well, a lot of these technology platforms have been vitally important to small businesses in terms of reaching new customers, reaching new markets, socializing, engaging with their customers. So again, sort of the ecosystem not only is about small businesses, but it's also about the larger businesses that are enabling small businesses, new businesses to do things effectively and to do things efficiently with the limited dollars that they have. This also extends, as you know, Angela, to affordable health coverage, flexible health coverage. It's going to be a big issue, next year again with the new administration. And again, we're just saying, look at, regulation has unintended consequences, and some of these big ideas and these big some of these pieces of the platform may be actually harmful, not only to small businesses, but also, again, the innovations, within the sector. And again, so Angela, I would just, I would encourage people, if they can, to visit our website, sbecouncil.org. You can sign up for our Small Business Insider newsletter for free. We have a lot of things that will update you on the things that we're working on the policy side. And we always are looking for new businesses, new entrepreneurs that want to engage with us and testify before Congress and tell their stories, to the White House and regulatory agencies. That's one thing that we do. But also, we also partner with local chambers, state chambers, national groups, and do a lot of webinars that we think are very, very, and programs that are very helpful to new entrepreneurs, existing business owners. And we provide a lot of tips and trends and do a roundup of all the great things that are out there that will help entrepreneurs and business owners succeed. So with that, I think I'll turn it back to you, Angela. And I know I covered a lot of ground and, and very high level without going into details, but I'll be more than happy to answer any questions folks might have once the presenters conclude. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And all of that information is vital to a thriving economy and that ecosystem that you spoke of, that advocacy and the policy and regulation. It all goes hand in hand, and it sometimes isn't the sexy, exciting topics, but it is absolutely vital. And again, thank you so much for being here. We're honored to have you. I'm going to put that website in the chat for everyone to have again. So there you go. It's very easy to remember. It's sbecouncil.org, and please sign up for the newsletters if you have not. So much vital information in there, so it's great, and we love sharing the information with our members. So thank you for all that you do for the business community. We appreciate it.
Oh, my pleasure.
Without further ado, it is my pleasure to welcome Itzara from White Tiger Distillery, and he is going to tell his story today and his path to entrepreneurship and success and being based in Harford County. He is a distiller of fine whiskey, and he has such a story of of true innovation and adjustment. He produced hand sanitizer when the pandemic first hit, and he has truly just evolved and evolutionized what he is doing and how he is conducting business in Harford County. So welcome, Sarah. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you, Angela, and welcome everyone, and good morning, I guess.
Yes.
If I look a little tired, just because I've been up late the last couple of days working on my doctoral paper. So yeah, entrepreneurship. I didn't even know what that word mean when I started my business, and and so I kind of just again, little background history. I'm a retired Army officer. Did serve 20 years in the Army, and 3 years out before my retirement, the military always trained us to think ahead and plan, do backward planning, and that way you don't put yourself in a bind. So with that in mind, I was like, well, I'm retiring soon, so let me see what I want to do outside the military lifestyle. And I happened to saw the TV show Moonshine on TV one day, and got inspired by that. And so I actually started my business while I was still in the Army, believe it or not. I was stationed at Walter Reed, and at that time, with the alcohol industry, the distillery, especially with the micro distillery platform, was still very new to the county and also to the state of Maryland. So wasn't really much regulation that a lot of the politicians can, local and at the county level can kind of rely on, right, or reach back to. So luckily, there was a distillery out in Queen Anne's County that had already. It was the first distillery that opened up in Maryland since Prohibition. So that's where White Tiger started, actually, in Queen Anne County on Kent Island, just because the policy was in place, wasn't. And that's when Karen mentioned policies and regulations that affect small businesses. That was one of the area that Maryland was lacking behind with the other states. We did, at least with my industry, even right now there's a lot of archaic regulation that hurts small business, small distilleries like myself. So started there. Of course, when you go outside your county, you get treated like stepchild. So we wasn't really welcome there, and I made a decision to move the distillery after a conversation with our local county members here, Billy Boniface, Barry Glassman, and so forth. And they're like, yeah, come on back. We'll be more than happy to walk you through it and work with you and whatever regulation rules we need to adjust. And I kind of, they were very business friendly. Let's put it that way. So,
and that's what you need. That you need
yes.
That business friendliness to be successful, and that willing to work with someone, as opposed to just saying, well, no, it's always been done this way, or no, we've never done that before. That yes attitude, and let's try to make this happen. That is vital for the small business success.
Correct. Definitely. I agree with 100%. And so that actually, was the reason why, so we came back, and we've been back to the county 2 years now. And we just, ever since then, we've just been, sales been going up, or we're doing innovation, just like you mentioned earlier with the hand sanitizer, right? So again, thanks to the, good and bad, COVID-19 actually opened up different doors and kind of let us think about how to operate in certain uncertainties. So a lot of waivers were given to distilleries and breweries to make, hand sanitizer. Usually that falls under the FDA or fall under the pharmaceutical area. So, but we were given waivers at the federal level to go ahead and convert our equipments and our process to produce hand sanitizer, as long as we follow the FDA guideline, and which we did. So that was kind of that saved the company, believe it or not. That saved our because when COVID hit and we were told to shut our door, because most 80% of our revenue was from tours and tasting and retail at on site. And and when that door closed, we were like, wow, okay, what's next? And thank God for the waiver that we were able to make hand sanitizer, which helped everyone, right? Like we speak up the family, the ecosystem. So by allowing us to do what we were or have the capability to do, we were able to help the local first responders and you guys saw we donated a lot of the hand sanitizer to our local first responders just to help them out.
And did you find that process of transitioning, there was help along the way with your business community, people, vendors to purchase products from, whether it be the containers or, from the regulation side of being able to switch that model over to a necessity at that point? Did you find it to be a collaborative environment, or were you really the one kind of pushing that cart forward and figuring it out as you went, or did you find that the resources were there for you?
So the FDA gave us a guideline on how to make hand sanitizer. So again, we didn't know what we were doing, but if you could read, you could pretty much figure things out, right? As a distiller, we're kind of like little scientists, mad scientists in a way. So we like, again, entrepreneurs, we have the mindset of solving problems. So we'll figure it out. You just give us the tools, give us the means, and we'll figure it out, right? That's the way entrepreneurship works. And so, yeah, and definitely collaboration with external resources like myself. We were able to source our own alcohol, but also we're able to get alcohol from other distilleries, local distilleries, and vice versa. Like, Twin Valley Distillery up in Silver Spring, they didn't have a mashing tank. So we gave or donated our 1,000 gallon tank for them so that they can make more alcohol, turn into hand sanitizer. So there was a lot of collaborative work that was going on within the industry. So it was easy transition for us because, again, once our hands were untied and let our mind go, we were able to just tackle the problems and solve it and then move forward.
Right. Well, and you've hit the nail on the head. That I feel like that is the actual definition of entrepreneurship, and an entrepreneur is just figuring it out. It is on your shoulders to make it happen and to make it work. And really, you may not know what you're doing, but you're going to get there and know that the problem is going to be solved. So thank you for that, and thank you for that contribution to the community. I'm going to go backwards. So we kind of started where you went early, but I do want to go backwards a little bit. And, you talked about your military career, and thank you for your service to our country. As we conclude November with Veterans Day, we're so appreciative of your service and you fighting for our freedoms. What made you decide as a distillery? What made you decide that this was going to be your next career, and how, what did that path look like to one day saying, I'm going to own White Tiger?
Well, I was training in Kentucky one day, and I saw the TV show Moonshiner, and that kind of triggered my the spark, that little spark inside me. I'm like, this looks interesting. But later on, when I came home, I found out that my family actually had a family recipe. My mom has been moonshining all her life since back in Laos, where I'm from originally, and so I kind of learned the rice whiskey. That's what we're known for, our rice whiskey formulation. So I learned how to distill from mom. Mom taught me, and mom's 80 years old now, and so it was in the blood this whole time. I just never knew it, and it makes sense now why I was so drawn to drinking, and I became a bartender, certified mixologist, and a lot of streets I live in were like named after whiskey. When I was living in Laurel, I live on a street called Whiskey Bottom, so go figure, right? So it was definitely my faith to be a distiller. So that's how it all started, believe it or not. Once I found out that mom was making whiskey back in Laos, I said, hey, if mom could do it, I could do it.
I love that. That's fantastic. And so I know that this is something that I learned from serving on the Economic Development Advisory Board with you for the county and having conversations with Lynn Parrish. But can you talk about this little tidbit that wasn't in your notes to talk about today, but how the green that you use is like what you have back in Laos, that, it's sourced here and that you were able to find that. And I love that tidbit of our county.
So again, we started with the rice whiskey, which was is grown in typically grown in Laos. It's called sticky rice. If you never had it, again, once you try sticky rice, you're gonna love it. So that's kind of what we started, and then I didn't want to put myself to just one product. So I said, you know what, we're in Maryland. Maryland has a lot of history with the rye, so we started making rye whiskey. So we source our rye locally. And then I said, well, why stop at rye? Let's make bourbon. And remember, I didn't know any of this stuff other than drinking it, right? So we try to source a lot of our local the local grains locally. So we help farmers and work with farmers. And I was even thinking at one point trying to see if we can grow the rice here in Maryland. So I did a little experimentation in my backyard, and it actually worked. So we just gotta somehow scale this out now. But yes, you can grow rice.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that. And so you've talked about how, you started at one point and you've moved forward and say, okay, well, I'm going to try that. And okay, well, we've done this. Let's go ahead and make the rye bourbon now. How do you measure success? What are your tangibles or intangibles for success measurement?
So for me is the reason, really the reason why I did a lot of the different variation of whiskey is to, a lot of people go around and call themselves master distilleries or master distillers, and really all they could do is one product. And for me personally, that title, if you're going to call yourself master distiller, you got to be able to do all kind of spirits, right? Because that's what a distillery is. It's distilled spirit, not just corn whiskey. So was why I started with making all those different varieties, just so I could say, yes, I did it. And so for me, the measure of success is be able not just to make it, but to put it on the market and sell it, and which we have accomplished that. So yeah, when when you start off as entrepreneur, you have the mentality of taking over the world, right? You want to have it everywhere, and so your mind is scattered everywhere. You want to make a little bit of everything, but in reality, as a point, and the tips for other entrepreneurs, kind of narrow yourself down. But it's good to have these big ideas, but always focus on what's in front of you first as a small business, just because it does help you maintain a good compass to really grow your business that way. Because of that, White Tiger Distillery, believe it or not, has got rid of a lot of our stuff now and only focusing on 3 products. So we're down to bourbon, rice whiskey, and our seasonal product. And everything else is kind of put on the back burner for now until the company grows and we can then expand again.
Recognizing what makes sense. Again, that continual learning in every sense of the word of what makes sense and where you're focusing your efforts and using the best use of your time. Correct? Is that kind of how you would? Yeah.
Yeah.
What? Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Also, and also knowing your customer base, right? That's very important because at the end of the day, they're the one that's going to buy your product. You can be the best, the best chef. If your customer don't like it, they don't like it. It's not your fault. It's just so learning your customer, studying their buying habits, what they know. Because remember when White Tiger started, our lowest proof product was 120 proof. That was the lowest. The high was 160 something. And we were very proud of that. We were like, wow, yeah, we could make high quality whiskey that doesn't cause, hangover. You could actually drink a whole bottle. We have challenged people to drink a whole bottle over a course of a couple of days. And We told them, if you get a hangover, come back, we'll give you another bottle for free. And sure enough, everyone come back and it's like, oh yeah, you're right. There's no hangover. So so we were very proud of the quality of our whiskey. However, there was a small percentage of people that could do it. So the majority of our customer couldn't drink 120 proof whiskey. So we were able to adapt. We had to adapt and bring the proof down. Sorry, I have a coming and go. Am I still on?
Yep, you're good to go.
Okay, I'm sorry. We had to adapt, right? That's another tip I would give to new entrepreneurs, and is be flexible, because you just never know until you get your product out to the consumer if it's the right product. So be very flexible and be willing to adapt, and put your ego in the back seat. And at the end of the day, it's about the business. That's what it is. It's about the business.
Amen. And you are naturally just kind of talking about some of the opportunities and obstacles that have come up through the journey. What do you think some of your, and knowing that customer base, recognizing that, and adjusting to that, what are some other obstacles that you can't really learn in a classroom, or, you just may not think about as a business owner when you have your idea and specific to just the business world, things that you were thinking about that weren't, or that you weren't thinking about, that weren't on your radar? Was it additional capital? Was it that policy? Those types of things that when you have this great idea and you have the tools to make it successful, but the ancillary buckets that you haven't thought about, are there any specific ones that you can kind of offer to the group and say, hey, you need to be making sure you're thinking about where you're going to get capital, because you may budget, but guess what, it's going to cost you 3 times that.
That's definitely, funding is definitely always the concern, the issues for small business, because again, when a lot of small business, when they start up with a bare minimum, right? And so sometimes those ideas that are in their head has not been tested in the market yet. So yeah, it's a great idea to yourself, but once it hits the market, that's when the extra funding will come in handy for us adapting, changing, repackaging, and so forth. Another good one to kind of be involved in is policy making with your local politicians, because a lot of them just don't know what they don't know. You know how hard it is for us to get our legislator at Annapolis to stop calling us brewery. What I mean? They just automatically assume distilleries and breweries are the same thing. So when they make rules and regulation, they made it for the brewery, not for us. So we have to go. I personally myself went and talked to Andy Harris face to face a couple times, just to he understand our industry, and so being involved in that aspect as an entrepreneur is very helpful for our policy maker, because they just don't know they don't know sometimes. We just have to educate them.
That's
and
wonderful.
So I'm glad that there's folks like Karen that does that, and I'd be happy to Karen to sit down and talk to you more about this, because there's a lot of policies that within the industry for distillery that are archaic, that we need to get our politician to rethink and have a different mindset.
That is the perfect statement on that, is the education, and they don't know what they don't know. It's not done directly to be malicious or to be negative, to negatively impact. It's just the education and awareness of what is happening. And I love the way that you said that, because fortunately we do have some great legislators that are willing to sit down and talk and say, teach me, educate me on what I need to know to best advocate and support you. So that's good that you had that experience with Andy Harris, and hopefully with our Harford County delegation.
Oh yeah. Yes. Harford County, we are very, very, very fortunate to have good leadership on both sides of the aisles that will listen to our concerns. And I could speak that, personally, because I had spoke with both sides of the aisle, both parties, and they were very receptive. And that's why we have had a lot of even at the county level, we got a lot of zoning rules changed or at least revised to make it more friendly for breweries, wineries, and distilleries because of the educational piece. And then some of the other like permits and policy, the permits that are in the Harford County level, we were able to again, let them understand the differences. So yeah,
Mhm.
I always say get involved. If you sit back and complain, you're not gonna get anything done. Get involved, be up in their face, politely, of course, and just have that dialogue, communication, and they will listen. Again, a lot of them just don't know what they don't know.
Yep.
So.
That's great. Thank you. If you all have questions for Itzara, please type them in the chat. We want to make this interactive and, what do you want to know? So please don't hesitate to put those questions in the chat feature. What partners, aside from the elected officials who you've worked with, what partners or resources have been most valuable to you for your success? And whether that be local, state, federal, associations, what are some other associations or resources that have been valuable to you that may be valuable to someone else out there looking to start a business, a budding entrepreneur?
So for me, with the distillery, we have the guilds of the distillery. I'm sure a lot of industry has their own guild, and so be a part of that because they do advocate for you for your industry. So we have the Maryland Distillery Guilds that we're part of, and that's where I was able to go to Annapolis and speak to our local, our legislators and educate them. So that was a great experience. I love that. The forest learning about entrepreneurship. There's a lot of free site like the SBA as a website. They basically walk you through it and tell you what you need to do to start a business, and then if so, and then just talk to local business owners. Believe it or not, they already started the business. They're the best one to go to, and really, because especially the successful one, right? That's the one you want to talk to. And just kind of pick their brain. A lot of them, I know they're busy, but they will make time for you. And then just kind of pick their brain. Like for myself, I'm very close with other distilleries, even though we're competitors, but we still share ideas. So what we call it the cluster of innovation, right? And that's one of the big term in the business industry, cluster of innovation. So there's for the distillery, we work with other distilleries to find new way to do things. Because at the end of the day, it's going to help us all in a way. So, I know I'm going to mention it. A lot of the aging process is being cut down. Believe it, that's one of the big trend in the micro distillery, at least, is speeding up the aging process for whiskey. So you don't have to wait 5 years, 10 years anymore. Products that are 5 months, 6 months, even less than that are as good as those 30 years whiskey. Guarantee it. Don't believe me? Come to White Tiger. I'll prove it to you.
Well, I love how you said that collaborative spirit really is important. That's something that we see all of the time, that you can come together for the greater good and use that information and that education and what is born out of those idea sharing sessions to make it your own and be successful. So it's great to hear you echo that statement, because that is what is so important, of coming together, working together for the greater good, and then making it your own in your own form or fashion.
Definitely.
Very important.
And they don't have to be in the same industry, like the brewery that's next door to us now, we work together all the time. A lot of their beer is aged in a barrel, so, and I just give it to them. I don't even charge them, it's just because I know it's going to make them successful. And they bring in customer, that's going to expose us, to their customer. So it's a share, it's a share process. So yeah, don't be afraid to reach out to your competitor and work with them if they allow, if they're open to that.
Thank you. So tell us about the name. How did you come up with White Tiger?
So White Tiger Distillery actually was started as White Tiger Liquor. My wife was like, "Nah, that sounds too much like liquor store. You need to change it." So I said White Tiger Distillery. So if you see my logo, It's a W. It's a double W with the tiger inside the W. So so the story how this logo came was is kind of interesting in itself. I'll be real brief about. So I spent thousands of dollars trying to get a logo that will meet my mission. And you know what? Sometimes it's the simplest thing that I end up paying $100 to a freshly graduated college student from graphic design in Puerto Rico, and he hit the nail right on the head. And that's so if you don't have the money, there's a website called Fiverr, FIV, I think ERRE. I could be wrong, but it's something to that. There's a bunch of freelancer, that can do your logo, can do a lot of your business need for very affordable price. So use that. I use that for all my label projects and so forth. But so the white tiger, the grain of rice itself is white, and so that kind of ties in with the family history because we eat sticky rice every day. And then tiger is my middle child's Laotian name, Sia, which means tiger. And because he's the middle child, we tend to forget about him a lot. So I figured I'd name a company after him, make up for all those years of neglect.
In one fell swoop, you took care of the middle child syndrome. You were able to say, look, you're good to go.
Exactly. So that's how White Tiger came about.
That's wonderful. Well, thank you, Itzara. We're going to talk with Trish for a little bit. And again, if you have questions as we go along, please don't hesitate to ask. And Itzara has been a wonderful community contributor. He talked about that engagement. And like I said, he sits on the Economic Development Advisory Board for the county. And he is one to have conversations and educate and make that awareness. And I do feel that has been part of these successes. Just, hey, let's do this, let's figure it out, let's make it happen. So thank you so much for being here today and just being a part of this and sharing your story. Really appreciate it.
Well, thank you.
And if you haven't tried, White Tiger is at the Grove, which is the agricultural center of Harford County, and it's the retail space. He's there on the weekends. Heather went this weekend to try to purchase some keto, and they were out. So it's in high demand. We've tried to get it, and she will be back next weekend, but he has a retail front there and great products. So I can tell you my family loves when I bring home treats from White Tiger. My husband especially. So thank you. Good morning, Trish from Ferrari Frame and Design. Thank you for joining us this morning. And I know you have an entrepreneurial background. We talked kind of about a business that you had in another lifetime, and now you have this frame and design business, and you are located in Bel Air's Armory Marketplace, which is a business incubator. And so if you want to talk about that and talk about how you became an entrepreneur and your journey to really changing from just frame to frame and design and your evolution of work, we would be very appreciative this morning. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. And yes, Ferrari is actually my maiden name, so that's kind of where the name came from. Excuse me. Over 25 years ago, I did have a graphics business called Ferrari Graphics, which is kind of, if you email me for something, that name is still in there. My husband couldn't totally let go of his name in there. So Orndorff is, incorporated in a lot of my materials as well. But I had that business that I had started to be able to service a client that was not serviced as well through a printing company that I worked for. And I had gone to them and did that venture and had a wonderful several years with them. And then they had decided to, take the business in-house, and I was getting ready to have my first child. So we kind of had retired the business at an excellent point and kind of tucked a little bit of those funds away for a future business when I was ready for that. So I did stay home with my 4 daughters for many years. And then I hit a point where it's like, okay, it's time for mama to make some money for these college girls coming up and weddings down the road. We've had one wedding, but So that's kind of where it, I started. I even tried other jobs to kind of find what I wanted to do. But once you've been your own boss, it's really hard to work for someone else, to go back and do things because you have your idea and your work method and your workload to then go do that with someone else. Not that a boss can't be wonderful and run a business very efficiently. But my husband and I kept kind of throwing around ideas. And with my graphic art background, we knew I wanted to do something in that realm, but I didn't want to be married to sitting behind a computer for 40 to 60 hours a week, like I did with my previous business. So we were like, what can I do? And my husband was always kind of like, well, I go to all these businesses and there's nothing on the walls. And, you're creative. Your dad was a carpenter, you have your art background, and it's kind of like just us tossing ideas back and forth and researching and looking into things is kind of where we came up with this idea and just looking in the county. So actually, literally 5 years ago this month is when I went away to my first training for framing. It was, December 2015 is when I did that. And I went away and I definitely had that aptitude, it was kind of like, well, we'll make this investment, see where it goes. And I just fell in love with it. Fell in love with working with my hands again. And then the creative side and the artistic side, putting it all together. So after that, I did that. And then I also went to some conferences for framing and vendors and things like that. And then we started, purchasing equipment. I've purchased, most of my equipment is used. I do have a couple newer items because with what I do, it's very expensive equipment. But that really opened up quite an incredible door for me. I went down to Virginia to purchase what's called an underpinner and for a frame shop down there. And my friend Monica there happened to say, if you want to intern down here, I'd love to have you. So that was really just what I would say, accelerated my process. You know what I mean? That was just a pivotal point for me to have that opportunity to intern with her for 6 months. And I'd recommend to anybody, to get a mentor. Even in my previous business, the mentor that had trained me before I even went off in my business in that area was really crucial to my growth and to my expertise. And working with someone so experienced, I work with Monica and Catherine. Catherine had 30 years experience, and then the shop owner had like 15. And I just really learned the ins and outs. And there's nothing wrong with going and volunteering somewhere to learn the ins and outs, of what they do. It's valuable time spent, and it really afforded me later on, less trial and error, less waste of products, because I all experienced it there. Now, granted, I had to purchase all my own materials and things like that, but I also worked on her projects. So, I'm deeply indebted to her for that. And it was kind of just like, I don't know, I would say, God was looking out for me, because it's just like the timing of it. And when the door opened up was just really perfect. I wouldn't be in the process where I am today. I wouldn't be as far along if it had not been for that mentorship, that internship. So where were we in the questions? And then after that is I took everything in the house and we started, putting tables, and I basically took over the basement. So initially I started out of the home and servicing, friends, family, and then even a local business was willing, we kind of worked a deal and was willing to let me come in and kind of outfit his walls. I came in and I did all the design, I did all the framing, and then I did all the installation for him. And we kind of worked out a deal for him giving me the opportunity, and then also the benefits that I have to, share his business with other people. Let's see. So that was really it. And then,
No, I was going to say, so you were in your basement working and doing this. How did you transition to that incubator space at the Armory Marketplace and knowing that you wanted to be, have a
that's
store?
what I was going to get to.
Perfect.
With a lot of business. Sorry, my connection is a little bit in and out, so I apologize for that interruption. Well, I immediately jumped in. I had started when I started my business through that connection of the friend that owns that small business, to get involved in the community. And actually through Bel Air Rotary led me to my other networking groups, which led me to CPWN, which led me to Chamber, which led me to the Alliance. And then ultimately my connection of sharing with people at these networking things that I was looking for a space to put my business, that I had had the couple years, working at home and establishing myself and priming my skills. And through those network opportunities is when I met someone that said, oh, you need to go talk to economic development. And we were thinking Bel Air. We had started looking at Bel Air. We had looked at a couple of spaces, but we knew Bel Air was a good location for me because there's only 2 other framers in the county. Bel Air's a very convenient location, but it's also closer to the families with a little bit more of that expendable dollars, as you would say, that have the resources to spend money on, decorating, design, making that investment that you make with framing. So then I interviewed and worked with economic development, and we worked up a very detailed business plan, which is important for you if you're going to really launch into something, is to have a very detailed business plan. So we worked out a very detailed business plan, and I actually had to wait a year for this space, but that gave me the extra year to really fine tune things and to develop more networking and people to connect me with other resources that I was going to need, like, insurance and things like that you need when you go into a brick and mortar. So that was all kind of pivotal, but economic development has led me to where I am. So this is a 3-year program. And I've been here 2 full years, so I'm actually in my 3rd year. So I will be launching into Bel Air in the next year. COVID has definitely, had an impact on us, but economic development, is really working to provide this opportunity for people that have this hopes and dreams, because rent expense out on Main Street, I wouldn't have been able to initially earn enough, to be able to, survive out on Main Street with that high rent, versus it takes time to build business. They say it takes about 3 years to really establish your business. And if you need capital, you need 3 years to do that. Mm-hmm. So, just like our former speaker said, you need to use the resources around you and talk to people to help guide you, through this process.
So with 2 years under your belt and, again, you're in a transition into broadening your horizons and expansion, how do you measure success? How do you, whether it be the sales, that's the easy, quote unquote, easy part, but how do you measure successes that may not be those tangible measurements and right. What you see on a bottom line?
Yeah, because I say everybody has their own version of what they think success is. Of course, for me, it's a lot of it is by referrals, and having that happy customer, or through a connection, through my Rotary connection, I actually had the opportunity to do a hallway at Upper Chesapeake. So knowing, that somebody's going to go down that hallway and look at those pictures that was done by a Maryland photographer that I had the privilege to frame, is going to bring some joy to somebody. So that's a big part of it, is that I must admit I'm not as financially driven, and my husband wishes I was a little bit more financially driven. But I get a lot of satisfaction out of what I do. But then it's also dealing a lot with the misconception of the public, or the certain generations that don't want to spend money. Like, custom framing is an investment. And when you go to a small shop, if you're going to use the premium quality products that we use, you're going to pay that if you go to a big box store. Mm-hmm. But they get you in with their economical packages, and they're using economical glass and different things like that. And it is an investment, which is not for everyone. So I have tried to offer other items in my store. Like I have photo frames, inexpensive photo frames anywhere from $7 to like $30 that you aren't typically going to find, like if you go to Target or something. And then I also offer framed prints because not everybody has a print that they're ready to frame. So I have an offering of that, especially with the holidays around. We try to bring people in with that, but it hasn't drawn as much as I thought. Like I really thought like the photo frames was actually my friend at the Nest had suggested that because that was something that she had liked out of a frame shop that had retired, was she liked going there and getting frames. So that's again where your community, depending on, I'm in a much different realm and a more specified realm than many of you, but that's again where your community, just talking to those other business owners, said, oh, hey, yeah, that would be a nice thing for me to add. So, and I think it's for me is more just people discovering that we're back here, that I think a lot of people don't realize. If they Google me, I show up, but they don't realize that I'm here.
And so you've talked about kind of that obstacle of getting past the economically driven big box stores that, again, you're getting what you pay for and getting that perception of that it is an investment as opposed to just a purchase out of there. What are some of the other obstacles? You just talked about kind of that awareness as to where you're located that you've had to overcome, and how have you adapted, especially recently with the pandemic?
Well, fortunately, my doors were only closed 2 months. So when we first shut down, as long as I had the materials in here, I finished the customers' pieces and then I just delivered them to their doorstep. So I was able to keep a couple weeks going because I had the materials, but then my vendors had shut down too. So I really only had my doors closed, the 2 months. And then once it reopened, then my vendors slowly reopened. So I actually had to wait for my vendors because I can't do what I do if my vendors can't provide me products.
Mm-hmm.
So it took a little bit longer for them to really get up and going, or I had to drive all the way to Waldorf, which is a 2.5-hour drive to pick up supplies. But I was willing to do that because of that, if I could keep things going and still service people. But then also it's like COVID affected so many people financially that we definitely had that drop. But then you had others that were staring at their walls, that their businesses were still going and they were fortunate to be able to do, remote work.
Mm-hmm.
And they were staring at the walls and then realized, or taking their spare time because they weren't commuting and whatnot, and realized, oh, I had this piece, now I can go get it done. So, but marketing is a big thing that I need to put a little bit more effort into because social media is getting out there, but I need to reach into my resources for marketing because that's something that I'm weak at, and I'm not afraid to admit that I'm weak in something. And that's again where you use the people around you.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely met, a number of people that work with that I think I need to make that investment now in order to be able to grow enough to make it, up on Main Street or,
So
in the
true.
vicinity.
Yeah, so true. So you've talked about your, that collaboration, knowing some opportunities for you to bring people in with the picture frames as opposed to the custom framing. What other tidbits of advice do you have for budding entrepreneurs that you can offer?
Well, one thing is I have a book that I highly recommend. I'm still working on it. It's called The E Method. And it says why most small businesses don't work and what to do about it. And when I started reading this book, I was just laughing because my husband has a strong business background. He's an electrical engineer, but he has a strong business background. And I was just kind of laughing because you have I wrote it down here. You have your entrepreneur, you have the manager, and then you have the technician. Well, when you're an entrepreneur, you want to do it all. And especially starting up, you don't want to, I had a really hard time with the idea of hiring someone. And my husband kept saying, you can't keep working these hours. It was really, because I needed someone experienced. I didn't have the time to train someone. So I needed someone experienced. And it took me probably 6 months. And then just by kind of word of mouth, I had gotten word that someone who had worked at the big box store for many years, had stopped, and she was looking to get back into it part-time. And she had worked at Michael's for 15 years, and she's a phenomenal designer. And that opened door, but that was an obstacle that I had to overcome, that I cannot do this on my own, that I need help. And so that was a kind of a big obstacle. But I was reading this book because I was the technician. Instead of being the entrepreneur and the manager, I wanted to do it all. I wanted to, own the business, run the business, design, do everything. And you can't do it all depending on what your business is. You just can't do it all. So it's kind of like, reading this book has kind of helped me outline a little bit more of some areas that I need to refine, but I'm still in that process. I'm still growing. I'm still learning. And this is really the pivotal year for me that I think I will really, this is going to benefit me. And just by hiring someone, it's giving me an opportunity to focus a little bit on my corporate side, because the corporate side is really what is going to financially keep my business to the point where I want it to be.
And that's great recognition, because as an entrepreneur, you are wearing many hats. Your janitor, if you have a space, your bookkeeper, most often, like you said, social media manager, you're wearing all of these hats as you're trying to grow and nurture your business, but it's looking at what makes the most sense. And if it does make the most sense, to hire the expert so that you can focus on moving the business forward. It's having that foresight to do so. And, that's a huge part, in my opinion, of success, is recognizing your strengths, weaknesses, and who you need to have on your team that's going to lift you up and make you successful. So thank you.
And in my case, my husband is very instrumental in my business, but he's my spouse, and I don't want to listen to my spouse. I want to do it myself, where if Mark comes and gives me some business coaching, I'm going to listen to Mark, where my husband could tell me the same thing, so it's kind of like, for some people wouldn't, they'd be fine, but, I wanted that, like, this is my business. I want to have the success on my, from what I do, you know what I mean? And, just be able to have that demonstration to my daughters, to him, that I can do this on my own with some support system. But, I was just, tunnel vision, like, I can do this. I know what I'm doing. I've done it before, but my business before, well, this is also service oriented, but it was completely service oriented. I subcontracted for the company that did all the Citibank Visa direct mail pieces. So it was a little bit different, where, this, I'm out in the public, and it's just different. But I love when people come in,
Well, thank you, Trish. Thank you so much for your time and information. We appreciate it. And you didn't know it, but you set me up perfectly to introduce Mark Ford. Here at the Chamber, we have great resources for our small businesses and entrepreneurs with coaching and consulting. And we had Keith Dahl from Sandler Consulting and Training. He was supposed to be with us this morning, but got tied up. And we have Mark Ford with us from the Growth Coach of Harford County. And Mark has been a wonderful part of our chamber and our connections in partnering to give some great advice or some consulting, or just helping walk alongside the business owners on their path. And he participated in our Shark Tank last year that was in partnership with the Harford Community College and SBDC and the Office of Community and Economic Development. He was one of our judges, and it was great to sit alongside him for that. And Mark, I just want to say thank you for all you do for the community. And if you want to talk a little bit about what you can provide for entrepreneurs and helping them, again, identify where they need to focus their efforts and where they can outsource to give them the greater success.
Well,
good
Angela,
morning.
thank you so much for the privilege of the time to be a part of this. And as a growth coach, we want to work alongside of you. Many of the entrepreneurs and the small business owners or professionals, they're really the expert of their industry. And a good coach is really going to give you guidance, guide you along the journey, and be that GPS, so to say, to keep you on track. Trish was alluding to a number of things that I found I started to smile, because those are opportunities that allow you to transform your business. And many times entrepreneurs, we get a little fluttered and they start working inside the business instead of on the business. You need to get a more of a big picture view of what's happening and make the necessary adjustments. Time is a big factor, right? And you alluded to how many hours you're putting into a day. And what you want to do from that standpoint is really focus on what's important now. Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Quiet all morning, right until you needed to speak. That's how it goes.
Yeah, that's my little buddy there. And I happen to be in New York right now, visiting with my mother. She turned 86, by the way. And
oh, well, tell her happy birthday from all of us in Harford County, please.
Thank you so much for that. And so I really talk in terms of when. It's what's important now. And many times, if we focus on the things that are important now, you stay away from all the clutter, the trivial many, and focus on the vital few things that's going to drive your business. It's a discipline, because you can't help it sometimes. You think you want to do this, you got to do that, and this and so forth. And many times you find yourself spinning your wheels on a hamster wheel, and you feel like you're doing so much, but you're not getting anywhere. That's because there's the trivial many that you're putting your time into versus what's important now. So I always stress the win. And as a growth coach, I have a lot of content. Your content is only as good as how you facilitate it. And so my background coming from corporate, I was a national sales trainer as well as a pharmaceutical sales manager. And I figured it out over the years. I had a book of business over $100 million in pharmaceuticals. And so once I put together a good team that I trusted and believed, I began to seek success. I kept them focused on the three things that were important for us to drive business. And then the results started to happen. I didn't get caught up. I didn't let them get caught up. And we guided that thing to the point where we were the #1 team in the country. So I learned that it took me a while, but I figured it out that I just needed to have some good people and learn to delegate a lot more of the responsibilities and then focus on the things that are important that's going to really make the impact. So as a coach, I just want to be a part of something to help. And you talk about what is success. Success is being able to share and see the growth of individuals and see that pride in them. And it makes me happy. It's so gratifying. So I guess it's time for me to shut that down. We should take that.
Well, if you haven't had the opportunity to have a conversation with Mark, he is always smiling. He's always positive. And, again, that's one of those important aspects of who you surround yourself with and, that vibe and energy that you want to put off. So in our follow-up from today, everyone will be emailed contact information and Mark will make sure to include your contact information. So thank you for your entrepreneurship in the county and for your support to help small business and entrepreneurs. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Angela. Appreciate it.
It's now my pleasure to welcome Joe Giordano from Project Opportunity. This is a new initiative that is being started in Harford County in the spring, and it's a veterans-based entrepreneurship program. And I'm not going to say anything more than that because Joe does a much better job at talking about it. And I welcome you, Joe, to give us some information about Project Opportunity.
Thank you, Angela and Heather. I'm really glad to be a part of this. Project Opportunity is the only free entrepreneurship training program in the state of Maryland for active duty veterans, reserve, and guard personnel. We have a 30-hour course where we teach our participants how to research, write, and develop a comprehensive business plan. And then after graduation, we continue to work with them with business counseling and mentoring in order to help them along on their journey and be successful. We are working right now with the Chamber and with the Office of Economic Development to bring our first class to Harford County in the spring. I am extremely excited. Harford County has been extremely receptive to providing this program, this opportunity to the veteran population. And I really look forward to bringing this and moving forward. When you get my contact information, if you do have any questions, please email me, or if there's any quick questions I can answer now, I'd be more than glad to.
So if there's anyone you know that would be interested in this program, any business that would be interested in supporting, whether it's promoting and distribution of information, again, I will forward you Joe's contact information, but we can use all of the support in any realm to get the promotion of this program off the ground, and as well the actual program. So thanks, Joe. We're so excited to be working on this with you. We think it's great. And, you know, Sarah can be a poster child as a veteran who did it on his own, but it is a successful story. So thank you.
Thank you.
And I now welcome Len Parrish, Director of Community and Economic Development for Harford County, to wrap us up and say a few words just about the wonderful entrepreneurial spirit that we have in the county and all of the ways that the county is supporting our small businesses and entrepreneurs. So thanks for joining us and being such a huge partner with us.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. Really appreciate the opportunity to get on this call and just chat for a bit. Just want to highlight a few things that a lot of which has already been talked about today on this call, but just a lot to really go back and kind of close this out a little bit with some thoughts. I think the most important thing is that the Chamber really has long been a valued partner of ours for those advocacy efforts on behalf of our business community, but really through COVID and through everything we've been through, I really think the Chamber's also stepped up their support. So I really want to say thank you for that. And I really want to say thank you for the opportunity to be involved in helping with that through the Business Resiliency Task Force that you have going on. I've had the pleasure to take part in that. And I think some of the entrepreneurs on this call may have even had the pleasure of being on that. And if you haven't, I encourage you to be a part of that. It's really important as we kind of get through this to get together and really support each other. We talked about community a little bit. I do want to mention a little bit more about community. But that Business Resiliency Task Force, and then really taking on leadership of venture access has been really important for us too. That's really our county's entrepreneurial support system. And we felt like it would be a really good fit under the Chamber to really help use mentorship programs and use some of the resources available through the Chamber to support our entrepreneurial system through events like this. So I really appreciate everything that you guys are doing. I think, as everyone here knows, we really strive to build great organizations in Harford County. And to do that, in my opinion, we really do have to build strong communities. That's why we are the Office of Community and Economic Development. That's really the most important thing, in my opinion. It's building that strong community. And I think that's especially important given our current circumstances, dealing with pandemic. And really, I can't say enough about what our business community has done to come together, support our organizations, first responders, everybody in the community, even our homeless population, really come together to do that. This community really has been really responsive in a time of need. And my office has been working hard to really be that connective tissue for our business community looking to serve that bigger cause. We have manufacturers like Star here at White Tiger, who's changed from producing and distilling bourbon, which is great, by the way. And I have had many bottles, never a full bottle in one day, although I've probably gotten pretty close at SAR, to be honest with you, but because it's a great product. But we've seen him change to producing hand sanitizer, which has been amazing for our first responders. I know he's donated quite a bit of that hand sanitizer to our first responders. He's been an incredible partner. Beyond that, I was out and around town on Saturday, and I saw firsthand the support that our community is giving to local businesses. Lines to get into stores just to support them on Business Saturday. It's great to see. And we're going to continue to pursue opportunities to support our local businesses, trying to help companies grow, pick up market share as that economy starts to open back up. We really work to aggressively create that diverse economy. So we're really looking to bring those living wage jobs into our community across many sectors and allow that entrepreneurial community to grow and thrive. It was mentioned earlier that 60 to 70% of new jobs are coming out of that small business community. And I would actually say locally, we may even have a little bit higher number than that, slightly higher. And as we look at the companies still active today, it does closely match what our priorities for growth have been. So clearly the defense community is extremely important to us in Harford County. And we really support that through our DEF Tech program, our Defense Technology Commercialization, trying to take the patents and things being developed on APG and get them out into our entrepreneurial community to take them to the next level, to grow them, to build them better, cheaper, faster, but with the potential to both publicly market those products and to privately market them within the defense industry. So super important to us. I think the Project Opportunity Program that's being offered in the partnership with Venture Access is going to be huge for us. That defense community is very important to us, and we want to continue that. Agribusiness and agritourism, still really good growing markets for us. So we're going to continue to support those efforts as well. I unfortunately had to cancel several events that we had planned for this fall at the Grove. We did have one very successful event in October, but as we saw our numbers start to climb, we did have to cancel our Harvest Festival that was in November, and we've had to cancel our Christmas holiday bazaar that was going to happen this Saturday, unfortunately. But the Grove is still open. It's open, operating every weekend, 8 local businesses in there. I've been there the last 2 Sundays. I've been happy to see people in there shopping. There's, homemade Lego trains and all this other stuff and things to do and people to see. So it's been great and really happy to be a part of that. Prior to COVID, my office operated the only co-working space in the county, but now the owners of Humagalas have been working towards opening Think Tank. So a private co-working space to support our community. We really are in support of that. Anything that the private industry is willing to take over from government, we want to happen. So I'm very much supportive of that project and want that to be successful as it starts to get open. Obviously, the Marketplace, the Armory, we've talked about that, an award-winning retail incubator in the town of Bel Air where Trish and Ferrari Framing are located. So really important ecosystem to us, really important stuff going on here in Harford County. And I think our ecosystem is strong. So I'm really happy to be a part of that. And just in closing, just say that my office is here to lend whatever support we can to help companies start, grow, and thrive in Harford County. That's what we want to do. That's what we want to be a part of. And anything we can do to support the chamber, to support Venture Access, to support any of the members, any of the entrepreneurs, Project Opportunity, all of these things that are happening, that's what we want to do. So thank you for allowing me to be a part of this, and thanks for putting this together.
Thank you for being a great partner and all of your kind words. Very much appreciated. So for those that haven't had the opportunity to speak, we talked about the network that is so important and that ecosystem. So I want to take a minute just to introduce the others on the call. And we're going to go around the boxes like Hollywood Squares. And I'm going to start with you, Jeff Cordella, just to say who you are, what you do, and introduce yourself to everyone.
Hi, Jeff Cordella, owner, managing director of supporting strategies in Chesapeake region. We offer bookkeeping and controller services for small businesses and nonprofits.
Perfect, thank you. Clarissa, good morning.
Good morning, how are you all?
Well, thank you. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you. I'm just wanted to join this program just to get some information about entrepreneurship because I am very much interested in doing this for myself. I've had about 20 years of legal experience, but I want to try to branch off and just do something totally different in the entrepreneur realm. So yeah.
Wonderful. Well, we look forward to connecting with you and being there with you along your journey. So whatever you need from us, we're here for. So thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Good morning, Justin.
Good morning, everyone. This is Justin. I'm happy to be here. I was trying to juggle a few things at once, so I was glad I was able to make it. Thank you so much. I missed part of it, but I appreciate Mark, Mr. Ford. I appreciate that info. I like listening to you because I'm a sales coach. I'm a Grant Cardone licensee, and I use his material to help others perform successfully over the phone and in person. That's what I do.
Thanks for joining us. Good morning, Rich Bennett.
Ho, 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 good morning. My name is Rich Bennett, also known as Santa Claus for November and December. I run Harford County Living, and the reason I started that was actually to help promote small businesses and entrepreneurs here in the county. And also now do a weekly podcast doing the same.
Thank you. Yes, check out Harford County Living if you have not. Susan Maldonado, good morning.
Hi, good morning. Can you hear me?
We can.
I'm sorry, I'm having camera problems. I don't know why I can't get my camera to turn on. I'm trying, but no luck.
It doesn't want to work yet.
Oh, there it is.
Go.
Hey. Hi, everyone. Susan Maldonado. I run a business called Wallet Wise Financial. I've been in business for about 9 months or so, and I am a financial coach, meaning I help people with their everyday finances and getting clarity and control around their personal finances. I also do small business bookkeeping, and the Chamber's been an amazing source to meet other businesses, and as a brand new entrepreneur, learning the ropes of how to get started, and even just getting the word out that financial coaching is a thing in the first place. So thank you.
Thanks for joining us. Susan Zanella.
Good morning, everyone. Sorry about
Good morning.
that. So thank you very much. Some absolute wonderful information this morning. I wish I could attend more of these meetings. I am currently the president and the gallery manager of Hartford Artists Association. We're Trish Orndorff's neighbor over at Armory Marketplace, and we just love the whole community of Hartford County. So thank you.
Thank you for being with us this morning, and you have some great gifts for the holidays, I'm sure, that everybody can stop by and see.
We have, and that's one of the hardest things that we have found, especially through this whole COVID thing, has not helped any of the small businesses. But Harvard Artist Gallery, people think of us as a museum. We're not. We're a gallery, which means we're for sale, not just for viewing. But it's also, we have more than just two-dimensional artwork. We have pottery, we have lots and lots of jewelry, we have just so many smaller gift ideas. Right now, the least expensive piece that we have to offer for sale in the gallery is $6.
Wow.
We also have $3,000 paintings, but you know, we have a little bit of everything.
It's all about balance. It's all about balance.
Exactly. So yeah, we are definitely, and I must kind of follow along with Len. Small Business Saturday was phenomenal. The community has really stepped up to help support all the small businesses in town, and it was wonderful to see. The gallery alone managed to invite 423 visitors into the gallery space on Saturday alone. Just
wonderful.
Outrageous.
Wonderful. Well, thank you. And last but not least, Chris Stone. He is been a huge contributor to Venture Access over the years, and an entrepreneur, and is also on the board for the Chamber. So in all of those roles, thanks for joining us, Chris.
Hey, thanks for putting it together. Sorry, I was expecting to go stealthy today with no talking or video or anything like that. I thought it was a cool idea. I know Ange and I had talked about what this was going to look like earlier in the month, and involving some entrepreneurs in the area and hearing some of their stories. And it's nice to see everybody's just chugging along with everything. I think I've been doing like web design and custom solutions for I think officially 15 or 16 years now. And I think the one thing that I've always enjoyed about the job is not necessarily what I do on a daily basis, but the people that I get to meet and the stories that I get to hear, because we do work with a lot of small businesses, some medium, but usually startups, people that have been doing it for a few years. And it's always cool to hear where they came from. It's always cool to hear how they're adapting to problems. My first pandemic, it's interesting to hear how the brick and mortar companies are working to overcome the issues. Not a lot has changed for me. I'm an internet guy. I pretty much just, it's a different t-shirt and a different hoodie, as the week goes on. But, the people that are out there that thrive on the foot traffic and the daily interactions, and, they actually do have a facility. It's always been interesting to me to hear how they've been doing through this and what they're doing to change their view. And it really shows the entrepreneurial spirit.
Thanks
So
for joining
putting
us.
this together. I think it's been cool. I definitely hope there's more stuff like this in the future. Get everybody.
Absolutely, without a doubt, this is just the beginning. It's 10:31, so we're over time, but I do want to take a quick pic if everybody would be willing to do so. Smile, and I'm going to grab a picture. Lynn, I don't know if you don't want to come back on camera. If you're in another meeting, we will Photoshop you in. And on the count of 3, 1, 2, 3. Perfect. Wonderful. So thank you, everyone. If you don't want your email address shared, shoot me an email back. If not, again, in that follow-up email, I'm just going to share everyone's contact information if that is allowed by you so that we can have that network. I want to thank Itzara and Trish for your time and information today. It was wonderful to hear your stories. And Karen Kerrigan, thank you, thank you, thank you. I know how busy you are, and for you to make the time for this, we truly are honored. You do all have homework. Please visit Ferrari Frame. Please visit White Tiger and go to sbecouncil.org. Sign up for the newsletter, and if you are so inclined, financially contribute, because the work that they're doing for us small business and entrepreneurs is amazing. So again, Karen, thank you. Don't forget your homework, and we will see you at the next event. Have a wonderful holiday season. Many, many blessings to all of you. Have a great day. Take care.
Thank you.